Hello and welcome back to the Broalie Talks Hockey Podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Roy Sommer, and Roy Sommer has been the head coach of San Jose's affiliates, AHL affiliates, since 2003, and he won Coach of the Year in 2016-17 in the AHL. So how are you doing today, Roy?
I'm good. Kind of waiting out this COVID thing so we could start playing some hockey again.
We're all just waiting to get back on the ice. Just to start off with your playing career, drafted by the Maple Leafs. Just take us through that feeling being drafted by one of the original six teams, and a team that is considered to be the mecca, the center of the hockey universe.
Well, you got that right about the Mecca Center, but yeah, I was drafted. I was playing for the Calgary Centennials. They're no longer there anymore. Then they moved to Billings, but I was kind of like every kid, just kind of waiting around when the draft was going on, and it was later on. I think I got picked up 5th round or something like that, and I just got a call and kind of wasn't expecting it, and they said you've been drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it was like I said, unexpected, but an honor just to get drafted back then. I think back then they had like 12 or 13 rounds. They had a bunch of, rounds. A little different now with just 7.
So then,
and moving on. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more different than the old anchor calls. Then after you ended up making your NHL debut for the 80-81 Edmonton Oilers, a team stacked with Hall of Famers Wayne Gretzky, Jari Kurri, Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson. Take us through what got you to Edmonton, and then the feeling. Take us through your feeling when you got the call saying you're going to be playing your NHL debut on the team with as many superstars as they had.
Well, for one thing, you guys don't have enough time on your podcast for me to go through how I ended up getting there. But no, I'm originally from Oakland, California. And I think at the time I was the only American playing in the Western Hockey League. I used to go to a hockey school in Nelson, British Columbia, and I was picked up there by a scout by the name of Wayne Myers and asked to come out for the Oilers or the Oil Kings. And I left home, I think I was 16, flew up there, and as soon as I got off the plane, I jumped on the ice, and I ended up, I didn't make the Oil Kings my first year. I think it was 16, 17. But I ended up playing for a team called the Spruce Grove Mets. And at the time, a guy by the name of Doug Messier, actually it was Mark Messier's father. He was the one that picked me up, and I ended up playing for the Spruce Grove Mets. That year we won the Centennial Cup, and I think off of that Spruce Grove Mets team, there was 10 players played in the National Hockey League off that one Tier 2 team.
Wow.
Which was, quite a feat. And then, like I said, I got drafted by Toronto, went to Toronto's camp, and I was actually supposed to go to school. I was supposed to go to Northern Michigan, and I went out to Northern Michigan, and they found out I took money, and because I played in the Western Hockey League, they found out I took money, and so they said, we'll pick up your next 3 years if you play your first year and you pay it. And I didn't have any money. So I was drafted by Toronto, went to their camp. From Toronto, that was, I think, Roger Nielsen's first year coaching. And then, I ended up going to Toronto. Then from there, they sent me to Salt Lake City. From Salt Lake City, they sent me to the East Coast League. I didn't make the East Coast League team. They sent me to the Pacific Hockey League in San Diego, and I didn't make that team. And then a team in the International League picked me up, the Grand Rapids Owls. I ended up finishing my year there. Next year, I was asked to go out for the U.S. Olympic team in Colorado. I went there, went to St. Louis's camp. St. Louis sent me to Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City sent me to the Pacific Hockey League in Spokane, Washington. And I ended up playing a year in the Pacific Hockey League. That was the year that the WHA just folded. And so I played there and had a really good year. And then I went back to St. Louis's camp. And then again, St. Louis sent me to Salt Lake City and back to the I. And then I was picked up, I was picked up later by Houston. The guy that was coaching in San Diego saw me play in the Pacific League, asked me to come out for a 3-game tryout in Houston. And Houston, ended up having, I think the first game we played against the U.S. Olympic team, that's the Herb Brooks team. And we ended up beating them. And I think I had a goal and an assist or something. So they kept me around a little while. And then Edmonton ended up signing me. Glenn Sather ended up signing me. So I went to Edmonton's camp the next year and ended up in Wichita. That was their farm team at the time. And I was brought up and Semenko was sent down. I was brought up. That's kind of what I did down there, kind of played a rugged game, and they brought me up and ended up playing I think 3 games with the Oilers and, got sent back down, but that was my NHL career. So that was the short version.
Do you remember who you scored your first NHL goal against?
You know what? I think it could have been Bunny LaRock.
Okay.
But it was my first game. I think the first time, as soon as I got on the ice, I ended up getting a fight with Rod Langway, and that was like my first shift. I was so hyped up just to be playing in my first National League game, and it was a Hockey Night in Canada thing, and it's actually one of the games that they archived because the Oilers ended up beating Montreal. I think it was like 9-1 or 9-2. And Gretzky had like 5 or 6 points that game. So they archived all his big games like that. So someone ended up sending it to me, which was kind of cool. But I fought Langway. Then in the third period, I think I got the decisive 7th goal. And so that was kind of my highlight, the National Hockey League. And later on, and when I started coaching, I ended up coaching in the East Coast Hockey League in Richmond. And Rod Langway ended up playing for me. He was waiting for me. Some guy set it up and he wanted to get back into hockey. So he started out with us. And actually that year we ended up winning the Riley Cup, which is the championship in the East Coast Hockey League. And Langway he was all part of that. That's a whole nother story.
Playing with a guy like Gretzky for your first NHL game, is there anything that he said to you pre-game, post-game? Any words of advice that he gave to you?
Actually, it was funny because when I went up, it was the guy that ended up kind of taking me under my wing was Mark Messier, and because I played for his father, and he got sent down when I was playing in Houston. I guess he missed a plane or something in New York, and they were pissed off at him. So they sent him down to the Central League where I was playing in Houston. And he was my roommate there for a while. And then they brought him back after that after a week or two. And but when I went up, I think Gretzky had a whole bunch of cars or something. He goes, "Hey, while you're up here, here's a car to drive." And he was just, basically what he did is he was really young then. I think he was like 21 or something, and just kind of hung around with the guys. And, just the one thing I remember is I think he got in a fight with somebody, and he got a fight one of the games. And I think in that game, he had a whole bunch of points again. And all he could talk about was how he killed this guy or whatever. But that's kind of all I remember. I mean, it was kind of a short stint. I ended up playing against Washington, Chicago, and Montreal. And So it was, but it was fun. You know, it was interesting and all part of the journey.
With that journey, you eventually took to coaching. So how'd you kind of get a job in coaching?
That's another half-hour podcast. But no, I was playing in Muskegon in the International Hockey League, and I think Muskegon was the farm team for the Pittsburgh Penguins at the time. And, you know, I played there a year, and then I think we ended up winning the championship that year. And the owner there, a guy by the name of Larry Gordon, which was the guy that originally signed Wayne Gretzky to the Edmonton Oilers, was the GM at that time and the owner of the Muskegon team. He brought me in, and at the end of the year, if you went to the finals, he told the team you could take a trip wherever you guys wanted to go. So I think we ended up going to Mexico, or I think it was Mexico or Jamaica or one of those. You know, a couple of times both years I was there, we went to the finals, and he brought us to one of those places. And my career was kind of winding down. I guess I was 29 or 30, and Rick Lee asked me if I'd be interested in coaching, and I said, well, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it much, but you know so I started being then the next year I went on as an assistant coach with him, and that was with and we were with Pittsburgh then. And then at the end of the year, the owner there, DeBartolo, brought in Ubriaco, I think, they made him the GM. And he brought in Esposito, and Rick Lee thought he was going to get the job and was going to bring me with him. He didn't have a job, so he went to Milwaukee. I ended up with no job again. And I was working out in California in the Napa Valley, and I sent resumes all over the place. And I got a call from a guy by the name of Peter Anholt, that was the coach and GM of the Prince Albert Raiders, and asked if I wanted to come up and be the assistant coach there. And I took that job. And then at the end of the year, we were driving through. We just played, I think, in Lethbridge in the playoffs, and I saw that Minot, North Dakota, which was in the Saskatchewan League, was looking for a head coach. So I applied there and ended up getting that job. And I was there a year and a half, and they let me go midway through my second year. And then I went to Albany. A friend of mine called me out there, wanted me assistant coach out in Albany with the Albany Choppers. I don't know if you guys even heard of any of these names, but went out with the Albany Choppers. And then that team ended up folding, like, just after Christmas. They ran out of money. So I went, you know, I left there and went back to California. And, you know, this again is the short version. I went back to California, sent letters all over again, and ended up sending resumes. And I ended up getting an interview with a guy in Raleigh, the Raleigh Ice Caps in the East Coast Hockey League. He brought me out there and interviewed, and there was another guy, Kurt Kleinendorf, I interviewed against, and he goes, you know what, you might be a better coach, but I think this other guy's going to be a better GM. But he says, I'm going to the meetings with all the owners of the East Coast Hockey League. And at the time, that guy owned the Durham Bulls. I don't know if you guys ever saw that show.
I can remember now.
Yeah, the Durham Bulls. Anyways, he owned that, and that's where the meetings were, in Durham, North Carolina. And then there was no jobs open. Everyone had a coach, but one team, and a guy by the name of Henry Brabham, who started the East Coast Hockey League. I had breakfast with him, and for about 15 minutes, and I said, I got to go catch a plane. And I was getting ready to leave, and that's kind of what jump-started my whole thing. And he's this old gruff guy and owned the Roanoke Valley Rebels in the East Coast Hockey League. And he asked me to put my hands over my head. So I put my hands over the head. He started punching me in the stomach. And he goes, boy, he says, we need a bunch of tough guys. He says, we need a tough team in Roanoke or we'll never sell tickets. He goes, you want the job? And so that's how I ended up getting my first pro job in Roanoke. coached in Roanoke for a year, and then he sold the team, and he wanted me to. He thought I should go in with the sale, and that whole year in Roanoke was a whole another nightmare. But just all the stuff that happened. And then I ended up getting an interview for Richmond, and I got that job. Coached 4 or 5 years in Richmond in the East Coast Hockey League, and I got a call from Doug Wilson, who was a part owner of the San Jose Rhinos, the roller hockey team, asked me to come out to San Jose. So I went out to San Jose, coached roller hockey for the Sommers and the East Coast and the Richmond Renegades in the winter. So I was coaching all year long. And Al Sims ended up getting the head coaching job with San Jose Sharks. And I was watching TV with my girlfriend, then to be wife. And she goes, you know what? They're looking for assistant coach. Why don't you interview? So I interviewed and ended up getting an assistant coaching job with the Sharks. And 24 years later, I'm still here. So that's, again, the short version.
With the Sharks.
We'll have you on again another time, just for the longer version.
What's that?
We'll have you on again for the longer version, make it a 4-hour podcast.
You could.
So you coached, you're the assistant coach in San Jose for 2 years. And then what led to you joining at the time, the AHL affiliate in Kentucky, the Thoroughbreds, from being the assistant coach? What was your thought process from there?
Well, I was with Al Sims, and they let him go, and fortunately Daryl Sutter came in, and he ended up keeping me on as an assistant coach there. And at the end of the year, they'd fired their coach down in Kentucky, and I wanted to get a head job again, so I asked him. I coached in the National League for a couple of years as an assistant, and I said, well, I'd like to try a head job in the American League. So I went down to Kentucky and had a lot of success down there in the 3 years I was there. And, I had to interview for the job for Kentucky, ended up getting it. And I was 3 years in Kentucky and I think 5 years in Cleveland. And then team moved from Kentucky to Cleveland to Worcester, Mass. And I was 9 years in Worcester. And then the team moved back to San Jose to be closer to their, parent club. And, I've kind of been there ever since.
With the parent
short version.
With the Sharks, in Santa Clara County, there's COVID restrictions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Barracuda do play in SAP Center, right?
Yeah, we play in the same building that the Sharks play in.
And the Sharks have moved to Arizona to play this season. And if there's an AHL season, where will the Barracuda be playing?
Good question. Actually, I'm leaving. That's why I was kind of putting this off, because I was going to actually drive down to California today. I'm in Montana at my house in Montana. And I was going to drive down to California, then drive over to Arizona on the 6th, but they moved everything up for us. So I'm actually leaving on the 2nd, and I'm driving down to Arizona. And the team down there they open up training camp on the 31st. So all those players that are in California right now have been quarantining, and then they'll all jump on a private plane, fly to Arizona, start there on the 30th, start camp on the 31st. I'll meet up with them on the 3rd, and then, start helping out there. And supposedly the American Hockey League is supposed to start, February 3rd or 4th. And I imagine we're probably going to start on the road. I don't know if Santa Clara counties, they're not allowing any groups over 10 and no physical contact with anything. All the football teams have moved out of there and everything else. So I don't know, we could be playing in practice rinks, but the biggest thing is I think, we'll get all our American League guys and our prospects together and figure it out as kind of as we go along. I think it's going to be kind of have an open mind of what's going to happen. We don't have a schedule yet. The NHL has a schedule, but we don't. I know the National Hockey League now is going to carry 4 extra players and an extra goalie. So, to alleviate if anyone, gets sick or whatever, they can pop those guys in. So, that's kind of, their insurance policy. And then, we could be, whipping through a lot of players, the way things, you look at the NBA and football and, teams that have, come down with, several positive cases and, they got to pop guys in and out. And so, they'll probably be going through a lot of players. So you're going to need an American League playing somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of which, speaking of having to have the extra players, I don't know if you've been following the World Teams at all, but
yeah,
the Team Germany, when they played against Team Canada, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were playing with 9 forwards and 5 defensemen.
Yeah, I watched that game. I felt bad for those players. They had they played a hell of a game the night before. They kind of hung in there, and then I know Canada was probably licking their chops to get a team that was depleted and probably a little bit worn out and everything else, and guys getting overplayed. And I said, I was telling my son, he actually coaches in the Western Hockey League in Seattle, and he was out here in Montana. We were both watching it, and I go, they're going to score 15 or 18 goals in this game. And sure, well, they hit the 15 goal mark, and I felt bad. Like I said, I felt bad for those kids, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Tim Stützle?
What's that?
What do you think of Tim Stützle in Germany, the Ottawa Senators' 3rd overall pick?
He's good. No, good player. Actually, we had one of our players that played for us last year, Len Bergman, was playing in with his team over there, and I guess he was the one that ran him over and messed up his wrist. But it was in practice, and it was just kind of a funky hit. But I talked to him a couple days after it happened, and he felt bad about it. But yeah, you look at I think I looked at the Canadian roster, and every forward was a 1st-round pick.
Yeah, I think 20 out of 24 players, 20 out of 23 players are 1st-round picks on that team.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And that's without guys like Alex Lafreniere and Kirby Dach's not playing because of it. When I saw that hit, it looked so innocent, and then I see the after effect, how his wrist got fractured. It shook me a bit.
Yeah, but you know what? He's a young kid, and they pop out of it. They heal a lot quicker than old guys like me. That's for sure.
And what would you kind of going into AHL players versus NHL players, and you've coached in both leagues, so what would you say the main difference between AHL players and NHL players is, or what do players generally have to work on in the AHL to become ready for the next level?
I think the biggest thing is, when you're playing in the National Hockey League, like it's a grind, man. And I would say the number one thing is, physical ability to be able to play at the National Hockey League level. It's, you got to be in top shape, like in San Jose, especially, they don't practice a lot because of their travel and everything else. So your conditioning and everything is like done in the summer. Like a guy like Brett Birds, like you should see this guy, man. He's just an animal. And, that's one of the things, players come in and they come from junior, and, they're the best players, and probably most of the time they're their best players on their junior team or their college team. And then they get to the American League, and it's basically like they're on an all-star team, because every guy we have is like probably the best player of their junior team or their college team. And, you just gotta, when you go up, you have to kind of find your niche, and you have to be, like I said, in great shape, and you got to have something going for you. You have to, most of the players are drafted for a reason. You try to play to your strengths, but I think the biggest thing is just, staying real consistent with your game up there. You can't have a lot of highs and lows when you first go up. And unless you're a first rounder, you're going to get a lot more looks than a guy that was just like a free agent or a late draft pick or something coming in. But, you got to catch the coach's eye and, let him, have trust in you. I think your toolbox has got to be full. You've got to be real consistent. I think that's the biggest thing is, just going up and believing that you can play and, going in and, not making a lot of mistakes and being super detailed. And, that's kind of the big thing that, we teach our guys down there is, the small details get you to the show. And if you're not a detail player up there, the first thing is you got to be able to play defense and get a puck off the wall and handle a puck and catch a puck while, and strike passing. And, the people talk about it a lot, but, you got to be able to go through an NHL practice, those guys up there, you guys watch Toronto's practice and Ottawa practice and that. Those guys don't miss a lot of passes. And if you're a guy out there and you're flubbing passes and missing passes and everything else, they don't have time for that. You got to get up there and you got to have your details and your skill development done. And then you're kind of on your way because you're drafted for a reason because they think you can play in the NHL.
As a coach, you said you got to catch coach's eye. So you're a coach. So what would you say catches your eye the most on the ice? I know it's a really tough question, but
it's actually a really easy question. I think for me, it's your compete level. And if you don't have that, like, getting after pucks when you lose the pucks, what do? Do you put your head in the air and, or do you go back after and get the puck back again? Like when you go in a corner, do you come out with the puck or does the other guy come up with the puck in front of the net? Do you battle with a guy and, and your work habits, like that's what I look for, just guys that compete like crazy and that have, give you 100% when they're on the ice, whether it be in practice or in a game. And those are most of the guys that make it. And I think I've put or been involved in like 150, 170 guys that have played in the NHL. You can usually tell them.
with practices, what do you find people make? What's the most common mistake that a player will make on the ice? Like that's pretty a big mistake, but it's common.
Common?
Yeah, like a common mistake.
I think some, it depends on, what type of coach you are. I mean, there's, that's kind of a tough question, but, guys long as they make honest mistakes, they might try something a little bit new and which is fine. But like if they turn the puck over at the offensive blue line and, they're coming back the other way, do they bury their head and try to come back and, like not stopping in front of the net? There's certain things that, that you kind of look for, like I've been coaching as long as I have, and there's certain things I look for, but, everyone's going to make mistakes out there. It's how how you react when you come back to the bench and how you get better at stop making mistakes. If you have to be told, 100 times and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, then, something's wrong there. It's either a miscommunication or you're stubborn or you can't do it,
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get into a little bit of a prospect spotlight right now. Ryan Merkley, he was San Jose's 21st overall pick in 2018. He's played. At 20 years old, he's basically done his, or he has done, to the best of my knowledge, his time in junior. You had him on your team for a couple of games in 18-19. What do you like? Can you tell us a little bit about him for those who haven't been following his career up until now that much? Can you tell us your opinion after getting a close look at him for even a couple games?
Oh man, I just think he's a super talent. I had him like we had him in the playoffs there. And then, I've had him through some development camps and some exhibition games, in rookie tournaments and stuff. And, I think the one rookie tournament we had, it was in Vegas or something. I thought he was the best player on the ice in the whole tournament. You get him inside the blue line, and I haven't seen a lot of kids with that much vision. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Dan Boyle, who I had in Kentucky. Plays a lot like him, real deceptive. I thought he had a pretty good compete level. He made a good first decision with the puck coming out. Kind of not a real big guy, but he always seemed to get inside on guys and you had to, box out and that. So I'm excited to see how he's going to do this year. I mean, he might end up, with the big club if he has a good camp. But no, he's a super talent.
Mm-hmm. With NHL, with constantly players getting called up, do you ever find it a struggle in the locker room where you'll have a couple players get called up, and do you think that hurts locker room chemistry, or what are your thoughts on that?
I've had different teams that have kind of guys would be going, hey, that should have been me. And then I've had other teams where I've been on that I've coached, and they're happy for the guy to get an opportunity. One thing about the American Hockey League is you got to think on your feet a lot, because, there's been games where we're actually at the rink because we're in San Jose right now. And, because of the proximity, our locker rooms are right next door to one another, and you'll get the call, and, we'll have a game that afternoon, and then the Sharks will be playing that night at home, and they'll say, hey, we need 3 guys. 2 guys came in sick, and this guy came in, so we're going to need, 3 guys. So basically the lineup that you had when you come in the morning for your afternoon game, you have your power play set, your penalty kill. You have to juggle lines all around, and, it's just the nature of the beast down there. You have to just, and usually when they take guys, it's usually your best player at that time. They usually don't take the guy that's struggling. They take the guy winning the hockey games.
So you don't get to pick which guys get called up, or they kind of tell you who's getting called up? And
well, yeah, they ask my input, like, especially if there's days off and stuff. And, I've been doing it long enough. I have a pretty good idea who's ready and who's not ready. And, yeah, they'll, a lot of times it'll be the GM or the head coach, like it was Pete DeBoer there for a while. Now it's Boogie. And, the thing that's good about it is they could come and watch our games in San Jose. Like they'll come and watch our games and watch the guys play, and they'll go, hey, we're missing a 4th line, kind of a rugged guy. We need a guy like that. And they'll grab him. If they need scoring, they'll grab usually our guy that's our leading scorer at the time, or a draft pick that was known for his offensive capabilities. And, that's kind of how it is.
With calling up in the AHL, you said a bit about how if they're missing a 4th line guy, they'll try and fill that role. So they don't really usually pick the best guy. They don't need it. 4th line guy, the that line guy. How does that kind of work?
I couldn't hear any of that. You went blank on me.
Yeah, you were cutting out there a bit.
Oh, can you hear me now? Is it good?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was trying to say, with the AHL, you said that if they're looking for that 4th line guy, they'll take the AHL 4th line guy, or the guy who plays that role. Is that very common that when a 4th line guy gets injured or something, or he gets, let's say he gets suspended, they'll try and call up the guy who plays a similar role to that player, or will they try and get the high scoring guy?
Again, it, it all depends on the year and, how important the games are, and if they want to take a look at a draft pick to see how he's developing, or, a lot of stuff goes into a recall. But, a lot of times they will bring, like, let's say we have a 1st or 2nd rounder down there that's playing pretty good. A 4th line guy does go down, they'll actually take him, insert that in that role, see how he does in the game, and try to move him up. But I've had some coaches up there, if they take a guy and he's a scorer and he's not going to do anything on the fourth line, that's kind of the role they'll put him in. But if there's a positional guy, like, they need some toughness or something, they'll bring a guy like that up. So, there's a lot of variables that go into a recalls, and a lot of times I'm not part of it. Sometimes I am. It's kind of how it is.
And as a coach in the AHL, the AHL is sometimes known as the development league. So do you try and take more of a developmental approach, or like a win approach? I feel like that might be hard to decide if you want to go for the win or if you want to just try and develop the players.
Everyone likes to win. No one likes to lose. I mean,
Yeah.
American Hockey League coaches that are coaching in the American League, they're developing players. They like winning. The players like winning. Your attitude and just the environment around the team when you're winning is a lot better than if you're losing. So you try to win games, but then again, you try to put players in positions where they can succeed and develop. Whether a guy needs time on the power play and you have a veteran there that should be on the power play, sometimes you put him in there instead, just to get his confidence going, get him some points going. The veteran guy's had his time. Hopefully you have good veterans on your team that understand that. But some guys are on fast tracks to make it. I had Pavelski. I think I had him for 30 games, and I do this reading system. And 1 to 5, 5 being an NHL player that night. And I think out of the 30 games, he was a 4 and 5 every night. And after 30 games, he left, never to return again, finished, he's still playing. A guy like Ryan Clough, I had him, he was up and down until he figured out how to practice harder. And, when he went out there to get something done, everyone's on a different path, so you got to kind of fill those players in and give them the ice time that's going to make them a better player and, help your organization win games up top.
And you said with coaching current NHL players, you also coached Logan Couture for 2 years, I think. You said about Logan Couture's game, he's Stark's captain. So was he kind of that leader in the AHL, or did it take time in the NHL to become that leader?
Oh, there's a guy that, like, I think it was the first time we got him down and we went right in the playoffs. He came right in our American League team. We went in the playoffs, and I think we were playing Hartford or something. And, he just looked worn out. You get those kind of players that are coming out of the OHL, the Western League, and they're, elite hockey players. Those guys are playing a ton of minutes and they're worn out. Like, a lot of times you get them at the end of the year and you go like, man, I thought this guy was better than he is. And you find out he's playing 30 minutes a game as a forward. And, they just don't have a lot left in them. But you could always see that, he's always been a leader type guy and, we're super focused, unbelievable wrist shot, you could tell he was going to make it. And, that was another guy up and down until, he figured it out, or until the coaches said, hey, this guy's ready to play.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
All right. Well, I was just going to say it's about 11:40 and I don't know how much more time he has, and good luck at camp. So I'll end it off here unless you have.
Yeah, unless there's anything else you want that you'd like to share.
No, that's it. Hope I gave you a little bit of insight. It's it's been I came up to Montana 8 months ago in March, and I was snowshoeing then, and then I'm still snowshoeing now with no hockey. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting back at it again. That's for sure. I think all of Canada is. You guys must be crying up there for it.
The World Juniors that saved me. All right, thank you so much for coming on. You're always welcome back on for if you want to do the extended stories.
That's the book version. But
That's the memoir coming out after you retire.
Well, I think if any kids that are listening to this, I mean, if you heard the one part about it is, I mean, I was drafted, sent down another level, sent down another level, sent down another level, and I hung in there and kept plugging it out and ended up playing in the NHL after probably everyone thought I was done. So, hang in there. If you believe in yourself and you believe in your abilities, heck, man, go for it.
Amazing words, perfect words to end off on. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Have a good one.